You're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to win. You're sitting there hoping someone will give you the green light to chase your dreams, to speak up, to take risks, to demand more from life. But here's the truth that's going to hit you hard. Nobody is coming. Nobody is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Now it's your time." Nobody is going to hand you a permission slip to start living the life you actually want. The permission you've been waiting for, it was always yours to give. And every day you spend waiting for someone else to approve your ambitions is another day your potential dies a slow death. This isn't about motivation. This is about liberation. Liberation from the mental prison you've built, where you need other people's approval before you can act on your own dreams. Chapter 1. Stop asking the world if you're allowed to want more. Stop asking the world if you're allowed to want more. That's where it starts. That's the disease that's been eating away at your potential for years. You've been walking around treating your ambitions like they need approval from people who aren't even living their own dreams. You've been seeking validation from people who are stuck in the same place you are. You've been asking permission from people who don't have the courage to chase what they really want. And every time you do that, you're giving away your power. You're handing over control of your life to people who have no business deciding your destiny. Think about how insane that is. You have dreams inside you that were placed there for a reason. You have visions of what your life could become. You have goals that make your heart race when you think about them. But instead of chasing them, you're looking around asking people, "Is it okay if I want this? Is it selfish if I go after that? What will people think if I try to build something bigger?" You're treating your desires like they're shameful secrets that need approval before they can see daylight. The world doesn't owe you permission to want more, and it's never going to give it to you anyway. The world is comfortable with you staying small. The world benefits when you play it safe. The world profits when you settle for less than you're capable of. So why would it encourage you to break free? Why would it push you to demand more when your mediocrity serves its purposes? You've been conditioned to believe that ambition is arrogance, that wanting more than what you have makes you greedy, that dreaming bigger than your current reality makes you unrealistic. But those are lies designed to keep you in line, designed to keep you manageable, designed to keep you from becoming the threat to mediocrity that you're capable of becoming. Your desires aren't accidents. They're signals. They're your potential trying to communicate with you. They're your soul telling you what you're capable of achieving. But you've been taught to question them, to minimize them, to apologize for them. You've been trained to seek consensus before you can pursue what calls to you. And that training has cost you years of progress. Every great achievement in history came from someone who stopped asking for permission. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every leap forward happened because someone decided their vision mattered more than other people's comfort. They didn't wait for approval. They didn't seek validation. They didn't ask if it was okay to want something extraordinary. They just went after it. But you've been playing by different rules. You've been living like your dreams need to be democratically approved before you can pursue them. You've been acting like your goals need to pass some kind of social committee before they're legitimate. You've been waiting for someone else to tell you that yes, you're allowed to want more. Yes, you're allowed to think bigger. Yes, you're allowed to demand better from your life. Here's what you need to understand. Nobody is going to give you that permission. Not your family, not your friends, not your co-workers, not society. They're all too busy dealing with their own limitations to worry about your potential. They're too focused on their own fears to encourage your courage. They're too comfortable with the status quo to support your revolution. The permission you've been waiting for doesn't exist. It was never real. It was always an illusion. A story you told yourself to avoid the responsibility of taking action. A way to delay the uncomfortable work of actually pursuing what you want. A method of protecting yourself from the possibility of failure by never really trying. You want more? Stop asking if you're allowed to want it. You want to build something bigger? Stop seeking approval for your ambition. You want to change your life? Stop waiting for someone else to validate your desire for change. The world will never give you permission to outgrow it. The world will never encourage you to become more than it expects you to be. The world will never approve of your decision to stop settling. But you don't need the world's permission. You never did. You just convinced yourself you did, because it felt safer than taking full responsibility for your own life. It felt easier than admitting that the only thing standing between you and what you want is your willingness to act without approval. Your ambitions don't need validation. Your dreams don't need endorsement. Your goals don't need permission. They need action. They need commitment. They need you to stop asking the world if you're allowed to want more and start demanding more from yourself. Because the moment you stop seeking permission is the moment you start taking power. And power doesn't ask. Power acts. Chapter 2. Nobody is coming to save your potential. Nobody is coming to save your potential. Let that sink in deep, because this is the reality check most people never get. You've been living like someone is going to show up and unlock what's inside you, like someone is going to discover your talents and put you where you belong, like someone is going to recognize your worth and hand you the opportunities you deserve. But that person doesn't exist. That rescue isn't coming. That fairy tale ending where someone else makes your dreams come true is a fantasy that's keeping you trapped in mediocrity. Your potential is your responsibility. Not your boss's responsibility, not your partner's responsibility, not your parents' responsibility, not society's responsibility, yours. And every day you spend waiting for someone else to activate it is another day it dies a little more. Every month you spend hoping someone will notice you is another month you could have been building something worth noticing. Every year you waste looking for external validation is another year your dreams get further away. You know what your potential is. You feel it when you're alone. You sense it in the quiet moments when nobody else is around to influence your thoughts. You know you're capable of more than what you're currently producing. You know you have ideas that could change things. You know you have talents that could make an impact. You know you have dreams that could become reality. But instead of acting on that knowledge, you're sitting around waiting for someone else to see it, too. The world is not looking for your potential. The world is busy. The world is distracted. The world is focused on its own problems and its own agenda. The world doesn't have time to study you and figure out what you're capable of. The world doesn't care about unlocking your hidden talents. The world doesn't benefit from your growth unless you make it impossible to ignore. You've been operating under this delusion that if you're good enough, if you work hard enough, if you're patient enough, someone will eventually notice and give you your big break. But that's not how it works. That's not how anything works. The people who make it don't wait to be discovered. They make themselves impossible to ignore. They don't hope someone will recognize their potential. They demonstrate it so clearly that recognition becomes automatic. Every successful person you admire had to save their own potential. They had to believe in themselves when nobody else did. They had to push forward when everyone around them said it wasn't possible. They had to bet on their own abilities when the world was betting against them. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for validation. They didn't wait for someone to come along and make things easier. They just started. They began with what they had, where they were, with whatever resources were available. But you've been waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for someone to believe in you first, waiting for conditions to improve, waiting for circumstances to align, waiting for confidence to arrive, waiting for fear to disappear, waiting for guarantees that don't exist. And while you've been waiting, others have been acting. While you've been hoping, others have been building. While you've been seeking permission, others have been taking territory. The harsh truth is that your potential has an expiration date. It doesn't wait forever. It doesn't remain at full strength indefinitely. Every day you don't use it, it weakens. Every month you don't challenge it, it shrinks. Every year you don't demand more from it, It settles into something smaller than it was meant to be. Time is not neutral. Time is either working for you or against you. And if you're not actively developing your potential, time is destroying it. Nobody owes you an opportunity. Nobody owes you recognition. Nobody owes you a chance to prove yourself. The world doesn't owe you anything simply because you exist. The world doesn't owe you success simply because you have potential. The world doesn't owe you achievement simply because you've been waiting patiently for your turn. Your turn doesn't come automatically. Your turn comes when you take it. You want to save your potential? Stop waiting for someone else to do it. Stop hoping external circumstances will change. Stop expecting other people to see what you see in yourself. Start acting like your potential matters. Start treating your dreams like they're worth fighting for. Start behaving like your goals are non-negotiable. Start moving like your future depends on what you do today, because it does. The person who's going to save your potential is looking back at you in the mirror. That person has been there all along. That person has all the power they need. That person has all the permission they need. That person has all the authorization required to start turning potential into reality. But that person has to stop waiting. That person has to stop hoping. That person has to stop asking. That person has to start doing. Your potential is not going to save itself. It's not going to develop itself. It's not going to market itself. It's not going to fight for itself. It needs you to show up. It needs you to take responsibility. It needs you to stop waiting for someone else to believe in it and start proving it's worth believing in. Because nobody is coming to save your potential. Nobody except you. Chapter 3. Your comfort zone is a prison you built yourself. Your comfort zone is a prison you built yourself. And the most dangerous part about this prison is that you hold the keys. You can leave any time you want. You can walk out whenever you choose. You can break free the moment you decide that freedom matters more than familiarity. But instead, you stay locked inside, complaining about the bars you welded together with your own hands. You stay trapped in a cage you constructed out of fear, excuses, and the need for other people's approval. This prison doesn't look like a prison from the inside. It looks like safety. It feels like security. It presents itself as wisdom, as being realistic, as playing it smart, but it's a lie. What you call safety is actually stagnation. What you call security is actually surrender. What you call being realistic is actually being afraid. You've convinced yourself that staying small is responsible, that avoiding risk is mature, that never challenging yourself is the sensible way to live. But all you've done is build a comfortable coffin for your potential. Every time you chose the easy path, you added another bar to your cage. Every time you avoided a difficult conversation, you made the walls a little thicker. Every time you said, maybe later, instead of, let's do this now, you reinforced the door that's keeping you trapped. Every time you chose comfort over growth, you traded a piece of your freedom for a moment of ease. And now you're sitting in a prison of your own making, wondering why you feel so stuck, so limited, so frustrated with your life. The comfort zone isn't neutral. It's not a resting place. It's not a pause button on your life. It's quicksand. The longer you stay, the deeper you sink. The more time you spend avoiding discomfort, the less capable you become of handling it. The more you choose ease, the weaker you get. The more you avoid challenge, the smaller your world becomes. What started as a temporary retreat becomes a permanent residence. What began as a brief rest becomes a lifetime of sleep. You've been treating your comfort zone like it's protecting you from danger, but it's actually protecting you from life. It's shielding you from opportunity. It's blocking you from growth. It's preventing you from discovering what you're really capable of. Every great experience you could have had is on the other side of that comfort zone boundary. Every skill you could develop, every relationship you could build, every achievement you could unlock, every version of yourself you could become, it's all waiting outside the walls you've built. but you stay inside because leaving feels risky, because growth feels uncomfortable, because change feels uncertain. You've become so addicted to predictability that you'd rather live a small, safe life than risk the discomfort of building something bigger. You'd rather stay where things are familiar than venture into territory where you might fail, where you might struggle, where you might have to work harder than you've ever worked before. The tragic part is that this prison of comfort is destroying the very thing it pretends to protect. It's not keeping you safe, it's keeping you weak. It's not preserving your potential, it's slowly killing it. It's not maintaining your options, it's eliminating them one day at a time. Every day you spend in your comfort zone is another day your muscles atrophy, your skills stagnate, your confidence shrinks, your dreams fade, and your spirit dies a little more. You built this prison with good intentions. You thought you were being smart. You thought you were being careful. You thought you were protecting yourself from pain, from rejection, from failure, from disappointment. But what you were really doing was protecting yourself from life. You were choosing the guaranteed mediocrity of your comfort zone over the uncertain possibility of greatness. You were selecting known limitations over unknown potential. The keys to your prison are in your pocket. They've been there all along. The door isn't even locked. You just convinced yourself it was because it felt safer to believe you were trapped than to admit you were choosing to stay. It felt easier to blame circumstances than to take responsibility for your choices. It felt more comfortable to act like a victim of your situation than to acknowledge you were the architect of your own limitations. Breaking out doesn't require permission from anyone. It doesn't require perfect conditions. It doesn't require a guarantee of success. It doesn't require confidence or motivation or the right mood. It just requires a decision that growth matters more than comfort, a decision that your potential matters more than your fears, a decision that your future matters more than your present ease. But leaving your comfort zone isn't a one-time event. It's a daily choice. It's a constant decision to choose discomfort over stagnation. It's an ongoing commitment to prioritize growth over ease. Because your comfort zone will rebuild itself if you let it. It will try to shrink back to familiar boundaries. It will attempt to convince you that you've grown enough, risked enough, challenged yourself enough. It will whisper that it's time to settle back into safety. You have to consciously, deliberately, intentionally expand your boundaries every single day. You have to seek out discomfort. You have to pursue challenges. You have to volunteer for difficulties. You have to choose the harder path, not because it's fun, but because it's where your growth lives, because it's where your strength is forged, because it's where your potential gets activated. Your comfort zone is not your friend. It's not your ally. It's not your protector. It's the enemy of your potential. It's the killer of your dreams. It's the thief of your future. And the only way to defeat it is to stop feeding it. Stop choosing ease. Stop avoiding discomfort. Stop prioritizing safety over growth. Start breaking out of the prison you built with your own hands, because freedom is waiting. Growth is waiting. Your real life is waiting. But it's all outside the walls you've been hiding behind. Chapter 4. Permission is just fear wearing a disguise. Permission is just fear wearing a disguise. That's what you need to understand. Every time you say you're waiting for permission, what you're really saying is you're afraid to act. Every time you claim you need approval, what you're really admitting is you're terrified of being responsible for your choices. Every time you insist you're not ready, what you're really confessing is you're scared of what might happen if you actually try. Permission isn't about readiness. It's not about timing. It's not about conditions. It's about fear. And you've been using the need for permission as a sophisticated way to avoid admitting you're afraid. Fear is embarrassing. Nobody wants to admit they're scared. Nobody wants to confess they're paralyzed by what might go wrong. Nobody wants to acknowledge they're frozen by the possibility of failure, rejection, or judgment. So fear puts on a costume. It dresses up as responsibility. It masquerades as wisdom. It pretends to be patience. And its favorite disguise is the need for permission. Because seeking permission sounds reasonable. It sounds mature. It sounds like you're being thoughtful and considerate. But underneath that reasonable exterior, it's just fear running the show. You're not waiting for permission because you're responsible. You're waiting because you're afraid of being held accountable for your choices. You're not seeking approval because you're considerate. You're seeking it because you're terrified of standing alone. You're not asking for validation because you're humble. You're asking because you're scared of trusting your own judgment. Permission isn't about respect for others. It's about avoiding responsibility for yourself. Think about what permission really does. It transfers responsibility from you to someone else. When someone gives you permission, they're not just saying yes to your request. They're taking on the weight of that decision. If things go wrong, you can point to them and say, "But you said I could do it." If you fail, you can blame them for encouraging you. If you succeed, you can share the credit because it was their idea too. Permission isn't about getting approval. It's about distributing risk. It's about making sure you're not alone with the consequences of your choices. But here's what seeking permission actually costs you. It costs you power. Every time you ask someone else to validate your decisions, you give them control over your life. Every time you need someone else's approval to act, you hand them the remote control to your dreams. Every time you wait for someone else to tell you it's okay to pursue what you want, you make them the boss of your destiny. You turn yourself into an employee of other people's opinions. Fear disguised as permission-seeking shows up in 1,000 different ways. You tell yourself you need more education before you can start your business, but really you're afraid of failing. You say you need to wait for your partner's full support before you pursue your dreams, but really you're afraid of disappointing them. You claim you need more experience before you can apply for that job, but really you're afraid of being rejected. You insist you need to save more money before you can take the risk, but really you're afraid of losing what you have. The disguise is convincing because it always sounds logical. There's always a rational reason why you need permission. There's always a reasonable explanation for why you're not ready. There's always a sensible justification for why you should wait. But logic isn't driving the bus. Fear is. And fear is incredibly creative when it comes to manufacturing reasons why you should stay where you are instead of moving toward what you want. You know what's interesting about fear wearing the permission disguise? It never runs out of reasons. There's always another approval you need. There's always another person whose opinion matters. There's always another condition that needs to be met. There's always another box that needs to be checked. The goalpost keeps moving because fear's job isn't to help you get ready. Fear's job is to keep you safe. And the safest place is wherever you are right now. So it will manufacture an endless supply of permission requirements to ensure you never actually move. Real permission doesn't come from other people. Real permission comes from yourself. It comes from deciding that your dreams matter enough to risk failure. It comes from choosing to bet on your potential even when others doubt it. It comes from being willing to stand alone with your decisions. It comes from accepting full responsibility for both your successes and your failures. It comes from trusting yourself more than you trust other people's opinions. But self-permission is terrifying because it strips away all your excuses. When you give yourself permission, you can't blame anyone else if things don't work out. You can't hide behind someone else's poor advice. You can't point to external circumstances as the reason for your failure. You become completely accountable for your choices and their consequences. And that level of responsibility is what most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The people who achieve extraordinary things don't wait for permission because they understand that permission and power are inversely related. The more permission you need, the less power you have. The more approval you seek, the less control you maintain. The more validation you require, the less self-direction you possess. They choose power over safety. They choose control over comfort. They choose self-direction over external approval. You want to stop waiting for permission? Start admitting you're afraid. Stop pretending you need approval, and start acknowledging you're scared. Stop claiming you're not ready, and start confessing you're terrified. Because once you name fear for what it is, it loses its power to control you through disguise. Once you see permission seeking for what it really is, you can choose courage instead. Once you recognize that you're trading your power for the illusion of safety, you can decide that your dreams are worth the risk. Fear will always be there. It's not going away. It's not going to disappear once you get enough permission. It's not going to fade once you collect enough approval. It's going to be your constant companion. But you can choose to act in spite of it. You can choose to move forward even though you're scared. You can choose to give yourself permission even though fear is screaming that you need someone else's approval first. Because permission is just fear wearing a disguise. And once you see through the costume, you can choose courage instead. Chapter 5. Stop making other people the CEO of your dreams. Stop making other people the CEO of your dreams. You've been running your life like a company where everyone else gets to vote on your vision. Everyone else gets to approve your strategy. Everyone else gets to determine your direction. You've been treating your dreams like they need board approval before they can be pursued. You've been acting like your goals require a committee decision before they can be implemented. But here's the truth that's going to change everything. You are the founder, the owner, and the CEO of your own life. And no CEO in history ever built anything great by asking for permission from people who aren't even invested in the outcome. Think about how insane this is. You have dreams that were born inside you, visions that came from your heart, goals that emerged from your deepest desires. But instead of protecting them, nurturing them, and fighting for them like a CEO would fight for their company, you're handing them over to people who have no skin in the game. You're giving decision-making power to people who won't suffer the consequences if you fail, and won't share the rewards if you succeed. You're letting people who aren't paying your bills determine your strategy. You're allowing people who aren't walking your path to choose your direction. When you make other people the CEO of your dreams, you give them veto power over your future. Every time you ask, "What do you think I should do?" you're essentially asking them to run your life. Every time you seek their approval before making a move, you're making them your boss. Every time you wait for their validation before pursuing what you want, you're handing them control over your destiny. And most of the time, these people aren't even qualified for the position you're giving them. The people whose opinions you're prioritizing, what are their qualifications? Are they living the life you want to live? Are they achieving the things you want to achieve? Are they demonstrating the success you're trying to create? Are they showing the courage you need to develop? Most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, you're taking advice from people who are stuck in the same place you are. You're seeking guidance from people who have never walked the path you're trying to walk. You're asking for direction from people who are lost themselves. But it feels safer to let them decide, because then you don't have to take full responsibility. If they tell you to go for it and you fail, you can blame them for encouraging you to take a risk. If they tell you to wait and you miss the opportunity, you can blame them for holding you back. If they approve of your plan and it doesn't work out, you can point to their endorsement as evidence that it wasn't your fault. Making other people the CEO of your dreams is really just an elaborate way of avoiding accountability for your own choices. Real CEOs don't run their companies by committee. They don't make strategic decisions based on what makes other people comfortable. They don't change their vision every time someone expresses doubt. They listen to input. They consider different perspectives, but ultimately, they make the final call. They take responsibility for the direction of their company. They bet on their own judgment. They trust their own instincts. And they're willing to be wrong because they know that being wrong while moving forward is better than being paralyzed by seeking universal approval. You need to fire all the unauthorized CEOs you've installed in your life. The family members who think your dreams are unrealistic. The friends who project their own limitations onto your possibilities. The colleagues who discourage risk because they're too afraid to take any themselves. The strangers on the internet whose opinions somehow carry more weight than your own intuition. The voices in your head that sound like other people but are really just your own fears, speaking in their accents. Being the CEO of your dreams doesn't mean you become arrogant or stop listening to advice. It means you become selective about whose input actually matters. It means you distinguish between feedback from people who are invested in your success and opinions from people who are just comfortable with you staying where you are. It means you weight the advice of people who have what you want more heavily than the criticism of people who have never tried to achieve it. A real CEO protects their vision. They don't let every person who walks through the door redesign their business plan. They don't change their strategy every time someone expresses concern. They understand that not everyone will understand their vision, and that's okay. They know that revolutionary ideas always face resistance, and that resistance isn't a reason to abandon the idea. It's often a sign that the idea is significant enough to threaten the status quo. When you're the CEO of your dreams, you stop needing consensus. You stop requiring universal approval. You stop waiting for everyone to understand your vision before you pursue it. You make decisions based on your goals, not other people's comfort levels. You set your timeline based on your readiness, not their schedule. You determine your strategy based on your values, not their fears. You become willing to disappoint people who aren't contributing to your success in order to satisfy the vision that's calling you forward. The most successful people in history were not committee approved. They didn't wait for universal endorsement. They didn't seek permission from people who were comfortable with mediocrity. They appointed themselves as the CEO of their own lives, and they ran their dreams like they were building something that mattered. They made unpopular decisions. They pursued visions that others couldn't see. They bet on possibilities that others couldn't imagine. And they did it all without asking for permission. You want to stop waiting for permission? Start acting like the CEO you already are. Make decisions without seeking approval. Set goals without needing validation. Pursue opportunities without requiring encouragement. Trust your judgment more than other people's opinions. Value your vision more than their comfort. Protect your dreams from people who don't have the courage to pursue their own. Because you are the only person qualified to run your life. You are the only person who understands your full potential. You are the only person who will live with the consequences of your choices. So stop outsourcing the most important decisions of your life to people who aren't even shareholders in your future. Take back control. Be your own CEO. And run your dreams like the company you're building depends on it, because it does. Chapter 6. Your opinion of yourself is the only one that matters. Your opinion of yourself is the only one that matters. Every other opinion is noise. Every other judgment is distraction. Every other evaluation is irrelevant to your actual worth and potential. But you've been living like everyone else's opinion carries more weight than your own. You've been treating other people's assessments like they're more accurate than your self-knowledge. You've been giving strangers, acquaintances, and even people you don't respect the power to determine how you feel about yourself. And that's not just wrong, it's insane. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could. You know your struggles, your growth, your efforts, your intentions, your progress, your setbacks, your victories, your defeats. You know the battles you've fought that nobody else even saw. You know the progress you've made that nobody else would recognize. You know the strength you've built that nobody else could measure. You know the person you're becoming even when nobody else can see it yet. So why are you letting people who don't have access to that information determine your self-worth? Other people's opinions of you are based on incomplete data. They see snapshots, not the full movie. They see moments, not the journey. They see results, not the process. They see the exterior, not the interior. They judge you based on limited interactions, brief observations, and their own biases, insecurities, and limitations. Their opinion of you says more about them than it does about you. It reveals their capacity for understanding, their ability to see potential, their willingness to support growth, their comfort with others, succeeding. When you prioritize other people's opinions over your own, you're essentially saying that strangers know you better than you know yourself. You're declaring that people who haven't lived your life are more qualified to evaluate your worth than you are. You're announcing that external observers are better equipped to assess your potential than the person who lives inside your head and heart every single day. That's not humility. That's self-abandonment. The most successful people in the world didn't achieve greatness by seeking approval from people who couldn't see their vision. They didn't build empires by waiting for consensus from people who were comfortable with mediocrity. They didn't create breakthrough innovations by making sure everyone understood and endorsed their ideas first. They trusted their own judgment. They believed in their own assessment of their abilities. They valued their own opinion of their potential more than other people's skepticism. But you've been doing the opposite. You've been treating your self-assessment like it needs external validation to be legitimate. You've been acting like your own opinion of your capabilities doesn't count unless other people agree with it. You've been living like your self-worth is determined by popular vote, and every time you do that, you give away a piece of your power. Every time you seek validation from people who aren't invested in your success, you hand them control over your confidence. Here's what you need to understand. Most people are not qualified to judge your potential. They're limited by their own experience, their own fears, their own assumptions about what's possible. They're constrained by their own comfort zones, their own risk tolerance, their own vision of what success looks like. When they tell you what you can or can't do, they're really telling you what they can or can't do. When they express doubt about your abilities, they're really expressing doubt about their own. When they discourage your dreams, they're really protecting their own limitations. The people whose opinions you're prioritizing, what have they built? What risks have they taken? What dreams have they pursued? What evidence do they have that their judgment is superior to yours? Most of the time, the people who are quickest to doubt your potential are the same people who have never tested their own. The people who are most eager to tell you what's realistic are the same people who have never attempted anything unrealistic. The people who want to protect you from failure are the same people who have protected themselves right into mediocrity. Your opinion of yourself should be based on evidence, not emotion. It should be rooted in your actual capabilities, your actual efforts, your actual growth, your actual potential, not in what other people think about those things, but in what you know about them. You've been present for every moment of your development. You've witnessed every small victory, every incremental improvement, every lesson learned from failure. You have access to information about yourself that nobody else possesses. When you start valuing your own opinion more than others, everything changes. You stop seeking validation for decisions you're capable of making yourself. You stop needing approval for goals that emerge from your own heart. You stop requiring consensus for dreams that were born from your own vision. You become self-directed instead of other-directed. You become internally motivated instead of externally dependent. You become the author of your own story instead of a character in everyone else's narrative. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or stop listening to feedback. It means you become selective about whose input actually influences your self-perception. It means you distinguish between constructive criticism from people who want to see you grow and destructive criticism from people who are comfortable with you staying small. It means you weight your own assessment of your progress more heavily than other people's assessment of your position. Building a strong opinion of yourself takes work. It requires honest self-evaluation. It demands that you acknowledge both your strengths and your areas for improvement. It means celebrating your victories without needing external applause. It means learning from your failures without external condemnation. It means setting standards for yourself that aren't based on what other people expect, but on what you're actually capable of achieving. The moment you stop needing other people's approval is the moment you start building real confidence. Not the fragile confidence that crumbles when someone disagrees with you, but the solid confidence that comes from knowing yourself deeply and accurately. Not the borrowed confidence that depends on other people's validation, but the owned confidence that grows from your own assessment of your growth and potential. You want to stop waiting for permission? Start by giving yourself permission to trust your own judgment. Start by believing that your opinion of your capabilities matters more than anyone else's doubt. Start by acting like the person who knows you best, because you are. Start by treating your self-assessment like it's valid, valuable, and worthy of respect, because it is. Stop outsourcing your self-worth to people who don't have the information, the investment, or the insight to evaluate it accurately. Your opinion of yourself is the only one that matters, because you're the only one who has to live with the consequences of believing it or doubting it. You're the only one who benefits from having confidence in your abilities. You're the only one who suffers when you underestimate your potential. You're the only one who has to look in the mirror every day and decide whether you're going to bet on yourself or against yourself. Make sure that bet is based on your own informed assessment, not other people's uninformed opinions. Chapter 7. Confidence comes from action, not approval. Confidence comes from action, not approval. That's the fundamental misunderstanding that's been keeping you trapped in a cycle of seeking validation instead of building strength. You've been treating confidence like it's something other people give you through their opinions, their encouragement, their applause. But confidence isn't a gift from others. It's not a reward for good behavior. It's not a prize for meeting other people's expectations. Confidence is something you build for yourself, by yourself, through your own actions, decisions, and follow-through. Real confidence is earned through evidence. Evidence that you can handle difficult situations. Evidence that you can keep your word to yourself. Evidence that you can push through discomfort to achieve your goals. Evidence that you can learn from failure and keep moving forward. Evidence that you can trust your own judgment even when others disagree. This evidence doesn't come from other people telling you you're capable. It comes from you proving to yourself that you're capable through consistent action. But you've been doing it backwards. You've been waiting to feel confident before you act. You've been hoping that someone else's approval will give you the confidence you need to move forward. You've been expecting that external validation will provide the internal strength required to pursue your goals. That's like waiting for muscle to develop before you start exercising. It's like expecting to get in shape before you begin working out. Confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite for it. Every time you take action despite feeling uncertain, you build confidence. Every time you follow through on a commitment, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your self-trust. Every time you handle a challenge that previously would have overwhelmed you, you expand your belief in your own capabilities. Every time you do something that scares you and survive it, you prove to yourself that fear is not as powerful as you thought it was. The people you admire for their confidence didn't start out feeling confident. They started out taking action despite their uncertainty. They began with fear and moved forward anyway. They felt doubt and acted in spite of it. They experienced insecurity and chose courage over comfort. Their confidence wasn't the cause of their success. It was the effect of their consistent action in the face of uncertainty. You've been seeking confidence in all the wrong places. You've been looking for it in other people's opinions, in external circumstances, in perfect conditions, in guaranteed outcomes. But confidence doesn't live in any of those places. Confidence lives in your track record of handling whatever life throws at you. It lives in your history of keeping promises to yourself. It lives in your collection of experiences where you did the thing even though you weren't sure you could do it. When you wait for approval before you act, you rob yourself of the opportunity to build real confidence. Because approval-based confidence is fragile. It depends on other people continuing to approve of you. It requires constant validation to maintain itself. It crumbles the moment someone disagrees with your choices or questions your abilities. That's not confidence. That's dependence, disguised as self-assurance. Action-based confidence, on the other hand, is unshakable. It's built on a foundation of personal evidence. It's rooted in your actual experience of overcoming challenges, solving problems, and achieving goals. It doesn't need external validation because it's validated by results. It doesn't require other people's approval because it's approved by your own track record of success and recovery. The fastest way to build confidence is to start taking action before you feel ready. Do the thing that scares you. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Apply for the job you think you're not qualified for. Start the project you're not sure you can finish. Make the commitment you're not certain you can keep, not because you feel confident about it, but because doing it will make you more confident. Each time you act despite uncertainty, you prove to yourself that you don't need to feel ready to be ready. You demonstrate that you don't need permission to proceed. You show yourself that you can handle more than you thought you could. You expand your comfort zone not by thinking about expanding it, but by stepping outside of it. You build confidence, not by waiting for it to arrive, but by creating the conditions for it to develop. Confidence is also built through competence. The more skilled you become at something, the more confident you feel about doing it. But skill isn't developed through approval. It's developed through practice. It's built through repetition, through making mistakes, through learning from failure, through gradually improving performance. Every hour you spend practicing, instead of seeking validation, is an hour invested in building genuine confidence. You want to feel confident about public speaking? Start speaking publicly, even when your voice shakes. You want to feel confident about your business idea? Start building the business, even when you're not sure it will work. You want to feel confident about your abilities? Start using your abilities, even when you're not certain of the outcome. Confidence follows action, not the other way around. The approval you've been seeking from others is really just their confidence in you, but their confidence in you is far less valuable than your confidence in yourself, because their confidence can be withdrawn at any time, for any reason, based on their mood, their circumstances, their own insecurities. Your confidence in yourself, when built through action, becomes a permanent asset that nobody can take away from you. Stop waiting for someone else to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Stop seeking permission before you prove your capabilities. Stop looking for approval before you demonstrate your worth. Start building confidence, the only way it can actually be built, through consistent action in the direction of your goals, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what others think, regardless of whether you feel ready. Confidence isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about acting despite the fear. It's not about always knowing what you're doing. It's about being willing to figure it out as you go. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being committed to finding them. It's not about feeling certain. It's about being comfortable with uncertainty while still moving forward. The confidence you're looking for is waiting for you on the other side of action. It's hiding behind the choices you've been afraid to make. It's buried under the risks you've been afraid to take. It's locked inside the challenges you've been afraid to face. But it's there. And the only way to access it is to stop seeking it in other people's approval and start building it through your own courageous action. Chapter 8. Build your own approval system and stop renting confidence. Build your own approval system and stop renting confidence. You've been living like a tenant in your own self-worth, paying monthly rent to landlords who don't even live in your building. Every time you seek someone else's approval before you feel good about yourself, you're essentially renting confidence from people who can evict you at any moment. Every time you base your self-esteem on external validation, you're giving someone else the power to raise your rent, change your terms, or kick you out entirely. It's time to stop being a renter and become the owner of your own approval system. When you rent confidence, You're always vulnerable. The landlord can decide they don't like you anymore. They can find someone else they prefer to validate. They can change their mind about your worth based on their mood, their circumstances, or their own insecurities. They can withdraw their approval without notice, without explanation, without consideration for how it affects you. And when they do, you're left scrambling to find another source of validation, another person willing to rent you the confidence you should own yourself. Renting confidence is expensive. It costs you your autonomy. It costs you your peace of mind. It costs you your self-direction. It costs you your ability to make decisions based on your own judgment. Every month, you have to pay the rent by seeking approval, by performing for validation, by modifying your behavior to maintain other people's positive opinion of you. And like any rent, it never builds equity. You never own anything. You never build lasting wealth in your own self-worth. Building your own approval system means creating internal standards that don't fluctuate based on other people's moods. It means developing a personal scorecard that measures your worth based on your own values, your own growth, your own integrity, your own effort. It means establishing criteria for feeling good about yourself that you control completely. It means becoming the sole proprietor of your self-esteem instead of a tenant who's always worried about eviction. Your internal approval system should be based on things you can control. Did you keep your word to yourself today? Did you act with integrity? Did you give your best effort? Did you treat people with respect? Did you make progress toward your goals? Did you learn something new? Did you handle challenges with courage? These are the metrics that matter because they're metrics you determine, you measure, and you evaluate. When you own your approval system, you stop being emotionally dependent on people who have no responsibility to maintain your self-esteem. You stop giving away your power to people who didn't ask for it and don't know what to do with it. You stop making your mood contingent on other people's opinions. You stop living in constant fear that someone will withdraw their approval and leave you feeling worthless. Building your own system doesn't mean you become arrogant or stop caring about others. It means you become self-sufficient. It means you can receive feedback without being devastated by criticism. It means you can enjoy compliments without being addicted to them. It means you can maintain your self-worth even when people disagree with your choices. It means you can pursue your goals even when others don't understand or support them. The approval you've been seeking from others is really just confirmation that you're acceptable, that you're worthy, that you're enough. But you don't need someone else to confirm those things for you. You can confirm them for yourself through your daily actions, your character choices, your commitment to growth, your willingness to face challenges. The confirmation you're looking for externally can be generated internally through your own behavior and integrity. Owning your approval system also means accepting responsibility for maintaining it. Just like owning a home requires regular maintenance, owning your self-worth requires consistent effort. You have to regularly evaluate your progress. You have to celebrate your victories without waiting for external recognition. You have to learn from your failures without external condemnation. You have to set new goals and work toward them regardless of whether others think they're worthwhile. When you stop renting confidence, you stop living in fear of losing it. You stop walking on eggshells around people whose approval you think you need. You stop modifying your personality to maintain their positive opinion. You stop avoiding risks because you're afraid of disappointing them. You start making decisions based on your own judgment rather than their expectations. You start pursuing goals that matter to you rather than goals that impress them. The people who seem most confident are not the people who get the most approval from others. They're the people who have built the strongest internal approval systems. They know what they stand for. They know what they value. They know what constitutes success for them personally. They know what behaviors align with their character, and they use those internal standards to evaluate their performance rather than depending on external validation. Building your own approval system takes time and practice. You have to train yourself to notice when you're seeking external validation and redirect that energy toward internal evaluation. You have to develop the habit of asking yourself, am I proud of how I handled that? Instead of, what do others think about how I handled that? You have to learn to celebrate your own victories and learn from your own mistakes without needing external commentary. Your approval system should be fair, but not soft. It should acknowledge your efforts while still pushing you toward growth. It should recognize your progress while still challenging you to improve. It should be compassionate about your failures while still holding you accountable for your choices. It should be your toughest critic and your most loyal supporter, because both roles are necessary for genuine development. The goal isn't to become indifferent to other people's opinions. The goal is to become selective about which opinions you allow to influence your self-perception. The goal is to value input from people who know you well, who want the best for you, who have demonstrated wisdom in their own lives. The goal is to filter out noise from people who are projecting their own limitations, insecurities, or agenda onto your situation. Stop paying rent for confidence you should own. Stop giving other people control over your self-worth. Stop making your emotional well-being dependent on external validation. Build your own approval system based on your own values, standards, and goals. Become the owner of your own confidence, because when you own it, nobody can take it away from you. When you own it, nobody can raise the rent. When you own it, you never have to worry about eviction. And when you own it, you can finally stop living like a tenant in your own life. Chapter 9. Fear is the price you pay for dreams you're not willing to fight for. Fear is the price you pay for dreams you're not willing to fight for. Every dream comes with a bill, and that bill is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of success, fear of responsibility. The bigger the dream, the higher the price. The more significant the goal, the more intense the fear. But here's what you need to understand. Fear isn't trying to stop you from pursuing your dreams. Fear is trying to determine how badly you want them. It's the universe's way of asking, are you serious about this? Or are you just fantasizing? You've been treating fear like it's a sign that you shouldn't pursue your dreams. You've been interpreting anxiety as evidence that you're on the wrong path. You've been using uncertainty as an excuse to turn back. But fear isn't a red light telling you to stop. Fear is a green light telling you that you're headed towards something that matters. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. If your goals don't make you nervous, they're not worthy of your potential. Every person who has achieved something significant has paid the fear tax. They didn't eliminate fear. They moved forward despite it. They didn't wait for courage to arrive. They acted courageously while feeling afraid. They didn't postpone their dreams until fear disappeared. They pursued their dreams while fear was screaming at them to quit. The difference between successful people and everyone else isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to pay the fear tax without complaining about the price. But you've been trying to negotiate with fear. You've been waiting for it to offer you a discount. You've been hoping it will go away if you wait long enough. You've been looking for a coupon, a sale, a better deal. But fear doesn't negotiate. Fear doesn't give discounts. Fear doesn't offer payment plans. Fear demands full payment up front, in cash, no credit accepted. And if you're not willing to pay, you don't get access to the dreams on the other side. The fear you're feeling isn't punishment for wanting more. It's not a sign that you're being unrealistic. It's not evidence that you should lower your expectations. Fear is the cover charge for the club where extraordinary people hang out. It's the admission fee to the arena where great things happen. It's the toll you pay to drive on the highway that leads to your potential. And everyone who wants to travel that road has to pay the same price. When you refuse to pay the fear tax, you're essentially saying that your comfort is more important than your dreams. You're declaring that your current situation, no matter how unsatisfying, is preferable to the uncertainty that comes with growth. You're choosing the known limitations of where you are over the unknown possibilities of where you could go. You're selecting the guaranteed mediocrity of playing it safe over the potential greatness of taking risks. Fear grows stronger when you feed it with inaction. Every day you avoid doing what scares you, fear gets more powerful. Every time you choose comfort over courage, fear becomes more confident that it can control you. Every moment you delay pursuing your dreams because of anxiety, fear becomes more convinced that it's your master. The longer you wait to pay the fear tax, the higher the interest rate becomes. But fear weakens when you take action despite its presence. Every time you do something that scares you, fear loses a little bit of its power over you. Every time you move forward while feeling afraid, you prove to yourself that fear is not as strong as your determination. Every time you pursue your dreams despite anxiety, you demonstrate that your goals matter more than your comfort. Action is the only currency that fear accepts, and it's the only payment method that actually works. The people whose lives you admire didn't get there by avoiding fear. They got there by accepting that fear was part of the journey. They understood that everything worthwhile requires you to feel uncomfortable before you feel confident. They knew that growth lives on the other side of fear, and they were willing to go through fear to get to growth. They treated fear like a toll booth, not a roadblock. They paid the price and kept driving. You want to know why most people never achieve their dreams? It's not because they lack talent. It's not because they don't have opportunities. It's not because they're unlucky. It's because they're not willing to pay the fear tax. They want the destination without paying for the journey. They want the reward without accepting the risk. They want the growth without experiencing the discomfort. They want the dream without facing the fear. Fear is not going away. It's not going to get tired of bothering you and find someone else to terrorize. It's not going to lose interest in your dreams and move on to other targets. Fear is going to be there as long as you have goals worth pursuing, as long as you have dreams worth fighting for, as long as you have potential worth unlocking. The question isn't whether you'll feel fear. The question is whether you'll let fear stop you from moving toward what you want. The fear you're experiencing right now is not unique to you. Everyone who has ever achieved anything significant has felt the same fear you're feeling, the same doubt, the same uncertainty, the same anxiety about what might go wrong. The difference is they decided that their dreams were worth more than their comfort. They chose their goals over their fears. They selected their potential over their peace of mind. Paying the fear tax doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean you have to enjoy feeling afraid. It doesn't mean you have to pretend that anxiety is fun. It just means you accept that fear is the price of admission to the life you want to live. It means you stop complaining about the cost and start focusing on the value of what you're purchasing. It means you recognize that anything worth having requires you to invest something valuable, and courage is one of the most valuable investments you can make. You've been treating fear like it's optional, like you can somehow pursue your dreams without experiencing it. But fear is not optional. Fear is mandatory. Fear is the tax that everyone pays who wants to live beyond their current limitations. The only choice you have is whether you'll pay it willingly or let it keep you trapped in a life that's smaller than what you're capable of living. Stop trying to avoid the fear tax. Stop looking for a way around it. Stop hoping it will disappear. Start accepting that fear is the price you pay for dreams worth fighting for. Start treating anxiety as evidence that you're headed in the right direction. Start using uncertainty as fuel for your courage, because fear is not your enemy. Fear is your trainer, and it's time to start training for the life you actually want, instead of settling for the life that feels safe. Chapter 10. Take action now, or stay exactly where you are forever. Take action now, or stay exactly where you are forever. Those are your only two options. There is no middle ground. There is no third choice. There is no magical moment in the future when taking action will suddenly become easier, safer, or more convenient. There is no perfect timing waiting for you around the corner. There is no ideal set of circumstances that will make pursuing your dreams feel comfortable. There is only now, and there is only the choice between moving forward or staying stuck. You've been living under the illusion that there's a better time coming, a time when you'll feel more ready, more confident, more prepared, a time when the stars will align, the conditions will be perfect, and the path will be clear, a time when fear will be absent, uncertainty will disappear, and success will be guaranteed. But that time doesn't exist. That moment is a fantasy. That perfect scenario is a lie you've been telling yourself to justify staying exactly where you are. Every day you don't take action is a day you choose your current situation over your potential future. Every week you postpone pursuing your dreams is a week you vote for the status quo. Every month you delay making the changes you know you need to make is a month you spend building a stronger cage around your possibilities. Every year you wait for better circumstances is a year you donate to mediocrity. Time is not neutral. Time is not patient. Time doesn't wait for you to get ready. Time moves forward, whether you're moving with it or not. And if you're not actively pursuing what you want, time is actively moving you further away from it. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. If you're not advancing, you're retreating. If you're not climbing, you're falling. There is no standing still in life. There is only forward or backward, and staying where you are is actually moving backward. The action you're avoiding today will not be easier tomorrow. The conversation you're postponing will not become more comfortable next week. The risk you're afraid to take will not feel safer next month. The decision you're delaying will not become clearer next year. In fact, the opposite is true. The longer you wait, the more difficult action becomes. The more you delay, the stronger your resistance grows. The more you postpone, the more reasons you find to keep postponing. You know what you need to do. You've known for months, maybe years. You're not lacking information. You're not missing a crucial piece of knowledge. You're not waiting for someone to explain the next steps. You know exactly what needs to happen. You're just hoping that if you wait long enough, somehow the doing will become optional. But the doing is never optional. The action is never optional. The work is never optional. The only thing that's optional is whether you do it now or continue making excuses. Every successful person you admire started before they felt ready. They took action while they were still uncertain. They moved forward while they were still scared. They began while they were still unprepared. They didn't wait for permission, for perfect conditions, for guaranteed outcomes, or for complete confidence. They just started. They took the first step. They made the first move. They began the journey while everyone else was still planning the trip. The difference between people who achieve their dreams and people who don't isn't talent, luck, connections, or circumstances. It's the willingness to take action before feeling ready. It's the courage to start before having all the answers. It's the discipline to move forward despite uncertainty. It's the commitment to begin the journey even when the destination isn't clear. It's the decision to take action now instead of waiting for a better moment that will never come. Your current situation is the result of the actions you've taken and the actions you've avoided. If you like where you are, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you want something different, if you want something more, if you want something better, then you have to do something different. You have to take different actions. You have to make different choices. You have to start behaving like the person you want to become instead of continuing to act like the person you've always been. The life you want is not going to fall into your lap. It's not going to arrive as a gift. It's not going to appear because you wished for it, hoped for it, or thought about it really hard. The life you want exists on the other side of action. It's waiting for you to come and get it. It's available to you the moment you decide to stop waiting and start working. But it requires you to move. It demands that you act. It insists that you take the first step. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates more action. This is the cycle that transforms lives. But the cycle doesn't start with confidence. It doesn't begin with perfect conditions. It doesn't wait for ideal circumstances. The cycle starts with action. One small step, one simple move, one basic decision to do something different today than you did yesterday. You don't need to take massive action. You don't need to make dramatic changes. You don't need to revolutionize your entire life overnight. You just need to take the next logical step. Make the call you've been avoiding. Write the first page of the book you want to write. Apply for the job you want. Start the business you've been planning. Have the conversation you've been postponing. Take the class you've been considering. Whatever the next step is, take it today, now. The people who stay stuck are not the people who lack ability. They're the people who lack urgency. They're the people who treat their dreams like they're optional instead of essential. They're the people who believe they have unlimited time to make the changes they want to make. They're the people who think that someday is a real day on the calendar. They're the people who convince themselves that waiting is a strategy, instead of recognizing that waiting is surrender. Urgency is not panic. Urgency is not stress. Urgency is not desperation. Urgency is the recognition that your life has an expiration date. Urgency is the understanding that every day you don't move toward what you want is a day you can't get back. Urgency is the awareness that your potential won't wait forever. Urgency is the realization that the cost of inaction is higher than the cost of action. You have two paths in front of you, the path of action and the path of inaction, the path of courage and the path of comfort, the path of growth and the path of stagnation, the path that leads to the life you want, and the path that keeps you exactly where you are. You can't walk both paths. You can't choose both options. You have to pick one, and you have to pick now. If you choose action, you might fail. You might struggle. You might face challenges you didn't expect. You might encounter obstacles you didn't anticipate. But you might also succeed beyond your wildest dreams. You might discover capabilities you didn't know you had. You might create a life that exceeds your current imagination. You might become the person you've always wanted to be. If you choose inaction, you're guaranteed to stay exactly where you are. You're guaranteed to keep living the same life, feeling the same frustrations, experiencing the same limitations. You're guaranteed to look back with regret, wondering what could have been if you had just found the courage to try. You're guaranteed to spend your life wondering what if, instead of knowing what is. The choice is yours, but it's not a choice you can postpone indefinitely. Every day you delay is a day you choose. Every moment you hesitate is a moment you decide. You're not avoiding the choice by not choosing. You're making the choice to stay where you are. You're selecting the path of inaction. You're voting for the status quo. Take action now, or stay exactly where you are forever. The clock is ticking. The moment is here. The choice is yours. What's it going to be? Chapter 11. The world rewards those who move without permission. The world rewards those who move without permission. Look around you. Every company you buy from, every leader you follow, every innovator you admire, every entrepreneur who built something from nothing. None of them waited for the world to give them permission to start. None of them asked for approval before they began building their empires. None of them sought consensus before they pursued their vision. They saw an opportunity. They had an idea. They felt a calling, and they moved. They didn't wait for validation. They created it through their actions. The biggest rewards in life, the highest levels of success, the most meaningful achievements, they all go to people who are willing to act without authorization. People who are comfortable being first, being different, being misunderstood. People who don't need the safety of following someone else's blueprint. People who are brave enough to write their own rules instead of waiting for someone else to hand them a rule book. Think about every breakthrough innovation that changed the world. The people behind those innovations didn't have permission to create them. They didn't have approval from experts who said their ideas would work. They didn't have endorsement from authorities who validated their vision. Most of the time, they had the opposite. They had criticism, doubt, skepticism, and people telling them their ideas would never work. But they moved anyway. They built anyway. They created anyway. And the world eventually rewarded them for their courage. The permission seekers never create anything revolutionary. They never build anything extraordinary. They never achieve anything remarkable. Because revolutionary ideas don't get committee approval. Extraordinary achievements don't come from following conventional wisdom. Remarkable success doesn't result from doing what everyone else thinks you should do. The biggest rewards go to people who are willing to be wrong, to fail, to be criticized, to be misunderstood, all in service of something they believe in. But you've been playing it safe. You've been waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to pursue what you really want. You've been hoping for encouragement before you take risks. You've been seeking approval before you make moves. And while you've been waiting, others have been moving. While you've been seeking permission, others have been taking territory. While you've been asking for validation, others have been creating value. The world doesn't reward permission seekers because permission seeking is not a scarce skill. Anyone can ask for approval. Anyone can wait for consensus. Anyone can follow instructions. Anyone can do what they're told. But not everyone can think for themselves. Not everyone can trust their own judgment. Not everyone can act without authorization. Not everyone can move without permission. That's why the people who can do these things are rewarded disproportionately. Scarcity creates value, and the ability to act without permission is scarce. The willingness to trust your own judgment is rare. The courage to pursue your vision without validation is uncommon. The strength to stand alone when necessary is unusual. These qualities are valuable precisely because most people don't have them. Most people are followers, not leaders. Most people are order takers, not decision makers. Most people are permission seekers, not permission givers. The market rewards people who solve problems, create value, and take initiative. It doesn't reward people who wait for instructions. It doesn't compensate people who need constant guidance. It doesn't pay premium prices for people who can't function without supervision. The highest paid people in every industry are the ones who can see what needs to be done and do it without being told. They're the ones who can identify opportunities and act on them without seeking approval. When you move without permission, you automatically separate yourself from the crowd. You join a smaller group of people who are willing to bet on themselves. You enter a category of individuals who trust their own instincts more than other people's opinions. You become part of a select population that values results more than approval. And because this group is smaller, the rewards are bigger. There's less competition for the top spots because most people disqualify themselves by refusing to move without permission. The world is looking for people who don't need to be managed. Organizations want employees who can think independently, solve problems creatively, and take initiative without constant supervision. Customers want to buy from businesses that innovate, that lead their industries, that create new solutions, instead of copying existing ones. Society benefits from individuals who push boundaries, challenge assumptions, and create progress through their own initiative. But you have to prove that you're one of these people. You can't just claim to be independent and self-directed. You have to demonstrate it through your actions. You have to show that you can make decisions without needing approval. You have to prove that you can take risks without requiring guarantees. You have to establish that you can create value without waiting for someone else to define what value looks like. The people who get rewarded are not the people who have the most permission. They're the people who need the least permission. They're not the people who get the most approval. They're the people who require the least approval. They're not the people who receive the most validation. They're the people who depend on the least validation. They've learned to generate their own authorization, create their own approval, provide their own validation. This doesn't mean you become reckless or ignore all input from others. It means you become selective about whose permission you seek and whose approval you value. It means you distinguish between seeking wisdom and seeking permission. It means you learn the difference between getting feedback and getting authorization. Wise people gather information, consider different perspectives, and learn from others' experiences. But they make their own decisions based on their own judgment. The world is not going to come looking for you if you're sitting quietly in the corner waiting for permission. The world is not going to discover your potential if you're not actively demonstrating it. The world is not going to reward your capabilities if you're not using them. The world rewards people who show up, stand up, and step up. It compensates people who move, create, and produce. It values people who act, build, and deliver. Every day you wait for permission is another day someone else takes action without it. Every week you spend seeking approval is another week someone else spends creating results. Every month you delay while hoping for validation is another month someone else uses to build something valuable. They're not smarter than you. They're not more talented than you. They're not luckier than you. They're just more willing to move without permission. The permission you think you need doesn't exist. The approval you're waiting for isn't coming. The validation you're seeking is not required. What's required is action. What's needed is initiative. What's valuable is the willingness to move forward without external authorization. The world is waiting for people who don't wait. The market rewards people who don't seek permission to participate in it. You want to be rewarded? Stop asking for permission and start taking action. Stop seeking approval and start creating value. Stop waiting for validation and start producing results. Show the world what you can do instead of asking the world if you're allowed to do it. Because the world doesn't reward people who ask. The world rewards people who answer. And the biggest rewards go to people who answer questions nobody even thought to ask, who solve problems nobody even knew existed, who create value nobody even realized was missing. But you can't do any of that if you're still waiting for permission to begin. Chapter 12. Stop asking what if and start asking what now. Stop asking what if and start asking what now. Those two questions represent the difference between a life of speculation and a life of action. One keeps you trapped in endless analysis. The other pushes you toward immediate progress. One feeds your fears and multiplies your doubts. The other focuses your energy and clarifies your next steps. One leaves you paralyzed by possibility. The other propels you toward reality. What if is the question of the perpetual planner. What if it doesn't work? What if people don't like it? What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What if I succeed and can't handle it? What if I'm making a mistake? What if there's a better opportunity later? What if I'm not good enough? What if the timing is wrong? What if I should wait longer? These questions multiply like bacteria in a petri dish, consuming your mental energy and producing nothing but more questions. What now is the question of the action taker. What now that I know what I want? What now that I've identified the problem? What now that I have an idea? What now that I see the opportunity? What now that I understand what needs to be done? What now that I've learned from my last attempt? What now that I know where I want to go? This question cuts through confusion and focuses on the only thing that actually matters, the next step. What if thinking is addictive because it feels productive? It feels like you're being thorough, careful, strategic. It feels like you're doing important work when you're considering all the possibilities, analyzing all the scenarios, preparing for all the contingencies. But what if thinking is not productive? It's procrastination dressed up as preparation. It's fear masquerading as wisdom. It's paralysis pretending to be planning. The people who ask, what if, rarely do anything significant, because they can always find another scenario to consider, another risk to analyze, another possibility to explore. They become professional overthinkers who never get around to actually thinking things through by doing them. They plan the perfect approach, but never take the imperfect action that would teach them what they actually need to know. What now thinking, on the other hand, is inherently action-oriented. It assumes you're going to move forward and focuses on how to do it effectively. It accepts that uncertainty is inevitable and concentrates on what you can control right now. It acknowledges that you'll never have perfect information and directs your attention to making progress with the information you have. When you ask what now, you stop spinning your wheels in analysis and start gaining traction through action. You stop trying to predict the future and start creating it. You stop waiting for certainty and start building confidence through experience. You stop postponing your life and start living it. You stop being a spectator in your own dreams and start being the player who makes things happen. What if keeps you stuck because it's focused on all the things that could go wrong. It trains your brain to look for problems, to expect disasters, to anticipate failures. When you spend your mental energy imagining negative outcomes, you program yourself to see obstacles instead of opportunities. You become so good at predicting problems that you start believing they're inevitable. You convince yourself that the risks are too high, the challenges too great, the chances of success too small. What now keeps you moving? Because it's focused on what you can do about your situation. It trains your brain to look for solutions, to find pathways forward, to identify next steps. When you spend your mental energy on action planning, you program yourself to see possibilities instead of problems. You become so good at finding ways to move forward that momentum becomes your natural state. The what-if question multiplies problems. Every scenario you imagine creates new worries to consider. Every possibility you explore generates additional concerns to address. Every risk you identify produces more fears to manage. Soon you're not dealing with one simple decision. You're trying to solve dozens of hypothetical problems that may never actually occur. You become overwhelmed by challenges that exist only in your imagination. The what now question simplifies decisions. It cuts through the noise and focuses on what's actually required to make progress. It ignores hypothetical scenarios and concentrates on real circumstances. It dismisses imaginary problems and addresses actual situations. It transforms complexity into clarity by asking one simple question: given where you are right now, what's the next logical step? Most of the things you worry about never happen. Most of the scenarios you spend time preparing for never occur. Most of the problems you try to solve in advance never actually manifest. All that mental energy spent on what if is wasted energy that could have been invested in what now. All the time spent imagining problems is time that could have been used solving real challenges and creating actual results. Successful people are not people who never face problems. They're people who are really good at solving problems as they arise. They don't waste time trying to predict every possible difficulty. They spend their time building the skills, resources, and relationships they need to handle whatever comes up. They focus on becoming the kind of person who can figure things out rather than trying to figure everything out in advance. What now thinking builds confidence because it's based on your actual ability to handle real situations. Every time you successfully navigate a challenge, you prove to yourself that you can handle whatever comes next. Every time you solve a problem, you demonstrate that you're capable of finding solutions. Every time you take action despite uncertainty, you build evidence that you don't need perfect information to make progress. What if thinking destroys confidence because it's based on imaginary scenarios where everything goes wrong? The more time you spend visualizing failure, the more real failure becomes in your mind. The more energy you invest in expecting problems, the less confidence you have in your ability to handle them. You train yourself to see yourself as a victim of circumstances rather than as someone who can influence circumstances. You want to stop waiting for permission? Stop asking what if and start asking what now. Stop wasting mental energy on scenarios that may never happen and start focusing on actions you can take today. Stop trying to solve imaginary problems and start working on real opportunities. Stop planning for every possible outcome and start creating the outcome you actually want. The shift from what if to what now is the shift from fear-based thinking to power-based thinking. It's the shift from victim mentality to victor mentality. It's the shift from reactive living to proactive living. It's the shift from being controlled by circumstances to controlling circumstances. It's the shift from waiting for life to happen to making life happen. Right now, you have a choice. You can spend the next hour asking what if and generate a list of reasons why you shouldn't pursue your goals. Or you can spend the next hour asking what now and take at least one concrete step toward what you want. You can analyze hypothetical problems or solve real challenges. You can imagine failure or create success. You can think about acting or actually act. What if will keep you exactly where you are, spinning in circles, paralyzed by possibilities, overwhelmed by options. What now will move you forward, step by step, building momentum, creating progress, transforming dreams into reality. The choice is yours, but choose quickly, because while you're asking what if, someone else is asking what now, and they're taking the opportunities you're thinking about taking. Chapter 13. Your potential expires if you don't use it. Your potential expires if you don't use it. It's not a permanent asset that sits safely in your account collecting interest. It's not a renewable resource that regenerates automatically. It's not a gift that waits patiently for you to unwrap it. Your potential is perishable. It has an expiration date. And every day you don't exercise it, develop it, challenge it, and express it, it gets weaker. Every month you leave it unused, it atrophies. Every year you ignore it, it diminishes. And one day, if you continue to neglect it, it will expire completely. You've been treating your potential like it's guaranteed to be there whenever you decide you're ready to use it, like it's a savings account that will maintain its value regardless of how long you leave it untouched, like it's a skill that will remain sharp even if you never practice it, like it's a muscle that will stay strong even if you never exercise it. But that's not how potential works. Potential requires activation. It demands expression. It needs to be used or it starts to disappear. Think about athletes who have natural talent but never train. Their potential doesn't wait around forever. Their bodies adapt to inactivity. Their reflexes slow down. Their skills deteriorate. Their competitive edge disappears. By the time they decide they want to get serious about their sport, years of potential have been lost. The window of opportunity has narrowed. The path to excellence has become longer and more difficult. The same thing happens with your mental, creative, and professional potential. If you have the ability to build a business but never start one, that entrepreneurial potential doesn't stay fresh indefinitely. Market conditions change, technology advances, opportunities shift, your knowledge becomes outdated, your network grows stale, your risk tolerance decreases, your energy diminishes. What seemed possible at 25 becomes much harder at 45, not because you're less capable, but because you allowed your potential to expire through neglect. Your potential has been trying to get your attention for years. It shows up as ideas that excite you, opportunities that call to you, dreams that won't leave you alone, visions that make your heart race. It manifests as restlessness when you're settling for less than you're capable of. It appears as frustration when you're not using your gifts. It emerges as dissatisfaction when you're living below your capabilities. These are not random feelings. They're messages from your potential telling you it's ready to be expressed. But you've been ignoring these messages. You've been postponing these calls to action. You've been treating these invitations to grow like they're suggestions rather than urgent requests. You've been acting like your potential will wait indefinitely for you to get around to using it. Meanwhile, your potential has been getting weaker, quieter, less insistent. It's been giving up on trying to motivate you because you've trained it to believe you're not serious about activation. The tragedy is not that you might fail if you pursue your potential. The tragedy is that you might succeed beyond your wildest dreams, but you'll never know because you never tried. The tragedy is not that you might face challenges if you stretch yourself. The tragedy is that you might discover capabilities you never knew you had, but they'll remain hidden because you chose comfort over growth. The tragedy is not that pursuing your potential might be difficult. The tragedy is that not pursuing it guarantees a life of regret. Every day you wait to use your potential is a day you can't get back. Every month you spend in jobs that don't challenge you is a month of unused capacity. Every year you live below your capabilities is a year of wasted possibility. Time is the most unforgiving element in the equation of potential. It doesn't pause while you get ready. It doesn't slow down while you build confidence. It doesn't wait while you seek permission. It just moves forward, and if you're not moving with it, you're falling behind. Your potential is not just about what you could achieve for yourself. It's about what you could contribute to the world. It's about the problems you could solve, the value you could create, the lives you could impact, the innovations you could produce. When you let your potential expire, you're not just cheating yourself. You're cheating everyone who could have benefited from what you were capable of contributing. You're depriving the world of whatever unique gift you were meant to share. The people who make the biggest impact in the world are not necessarily the people who started with the most potential. They're the people who were most committed to actualizing whatever potential they had. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't postpone until they felt completely ready. They didn't delay until all their fears disappeared. They started developing their potential while they still had it, while it was still fresh, while it was still possible to grow it into something significant. You know what your potential looks like. You can feel it when you're alone with your thoughts. You sense it in your dissatisfaction with mediocrity. You recognize it in your dreams about what could be possible. You hear it in the voice that asks, "What if you actually tried?" You see it in your envy of people who are doing what you wish you were doing. Your potential has been showing itself to you for years. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Using your potential doesn't require a perfect plan. It doesn't demand ideal circumstances. It doesn't need guaranteed outcomes. It just needs activation. It needs you to start somewhere with something today. It needs you to take the first step, even if you can't see the whole staircase. It needs you to begin developing it before it expires from neglect. The expiration date on your potential is not written anywhere. You don't know exactly when it will be too late. You don't know precisely how much time you have left to activate it, but you know it's not unlimited. You know it's not guaranteed to wait forever. You know that every day you don't use it is a day closer to losing it. And you know that the regret of unused potential is far more painful than the temporary discomfort of developing it. Your potential is calling you right now. It's been calling you for a while. It's asking you to stop waiting for permission and start taking action. It's begging you to stop seeking approval and start creating value. It's pleading with you to stop making excuses and start making progress. It's not going to call forever. At some point, if you continue to ignore it, it will stop trying to get your attention. It will resign itself to expiration. But today is not that day. Today your potential is still alive. Today it's still possible to activate it. Today you still have time to develop it. Today you can still choose to honor it instead of wasting it. Today you can still decide that your capabilities matter enough to be expressed. Today you can still prove that you were serious about becoming everything you were meant to become. Stop treating your potential like it's optional. Stop acting like it will wait indefinitely for you to get around to using it. Stop pretending that you have unlimited time to figure out what you want to do with your gifts. Start treating your potential like the perishable asset it is. Start activating it before it expires. Start developing it while you still can, because once it's gone, and no amount of regret will bring it back. Chapter 14. The only permission that matters is the one you give yourself. The only permission that matters is the one you give yourself. Every other form of approval is temporary, conditional, and ultimately meaningless. Other people's permission can be withdrawn at any moment. Their support can disappear when their mood changes. Their endorsement can evaporate when their circumstances shift. Their validation can vanish when their priorities adjust. But the permission you give yourself is permanent, unconditional, and completely under your control. It can't be revoked by others. It can't be cancelled by external forces. It can't be invalidated by changing circumstances. You've been living like other people's permission is more valuable than your own. Like their approval carries more weight than your self-authorization. Like their opinion about your capabilities matters more than your knowledge of your own potential. But that's backwards. You are the only person who truly knows what you're capable of. You are the only person who has been present for every moment of your growth. You are the only person who understands the full scope of your dreams and ambitions. So why are you giving more credibility to their limited perspective than to your comprehensive self-knowledge? When you give yourself permission, you become unstoppable. Not because you become perfect, but because you become self-directed. You stop needing external validation to move forward. You stop requiring other people's approval to pursue your goals. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay to want what you want. You become your own authority, your own validator, your own source of encouragement and support. Self-permission is not arrogance. It's not the belief that you're better than everyone else or that you don't need anyone else. Self-permission is the recognition that you have the right to pursue your dreams without needing consensus from people who aren't living your life. It's the understanding that you're qualified to make decisions about your own future. It's the acceptance that you don't need external authorization to act on your own ambitions. The permission you give yourself should be based on honest self-assessment, not delusional thinking. It should be grounded in realistic evaluation of your current capabilities and your potential for growth. It should acknowledge your strengths while also recognizing areas where you need development. But it should not be dependent on other people's assessment of those same qualities. You can seek input, gather feedback, and learn from others' perspectives, but the final decision about what you're capable of pursuing should be yours. When you wait for other people's permission, you give them veto power over your dreams. Every person whose approval you seek becomes a potential roadblock to your progress. Every individual whose validation you require becomes a gatekeeper to your goals. Every authority figure whose endorsement you need becomes a limiting factor in your growth. You transform from the author of your own story into a character waiting for someone else to write the next chapter. Self-permission eliminates all those external dependencies. It removes other people from the approval process of your own life. It makes you the sole decision-maker about what you're going to pursue, when you're going to pursue it, and how you're going to go about it. It doesn't mean you ignore good advice or dismiss valuable feedback. It means you make the final call about what advice to follow and what feedback to implement. The people whose permission you've been seeking, what qualifies them to make decisions about your life? Are they living the kind of life you want to live? Are they achieving the things you want to achieve? Are they demonstrating the success you're trying to create? Are they taking the risks you need to take? If not, then their permission is not worth seeking. If they're not walking the path you want to walk, their opinion about your journey is not particularly valuable. Self-permission requires courage because it makes you fully responsible for your choices and their consequences. When someone else gives you permission and things don't work out, you can blame them for encouraging you to take a risk. When you give yourself permission and face challenges, you can't point fingers at anyone else. You have to own the outcome, learn from the experience, and make better decisions going forward. That level of responsibility is scary, but it's also empowering. Most people avoid self-permission because they're afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of making mistakes, facing criticism, or dealing with failure. But being wrong while taking action is better than being right while taking no action. Making mistakes while pursuing your dreams is better than making no mistakes while abandoning your dreams. Facing criticism while building something meaningful is better than avoiding criticism while building nothing at all. The permission you give yourself doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be based on complete information or guaranteed outcomes. It just has to be sincere. It has to come from a genuine belief that your dreams are worth pursuing, your goals are worth fighting for, and your potential is worth developing. It has to be rooted in the understanding that you have the right to want more from your life and the responsibility to work toward getting it. Self-permission is renewable. If you give yourself permission to try something and it doesn't work out, you can give yourself permission to try something else. If you authorize yourself to pursue one path and it leads to a dead end, you can authorize yourself to explore a different route. Unlike external permission, which often comes with conditions and limitations, self-permission is flexible, adaptable, and always available when you need it. When you become skilled at giving yourself permission, you also become better at respecting other people's self-permission. You stop trying to control what others do with their lives because you're focused on what you're doing with yours. You stop needing others to validate your choices because you're confident in your own decision-making process. You stop seeking approval from people who should be seeking their own permission to pursue their own dreams. The world is full of people waiting for permission that will never come. They're waiting for their parents to approve of their career choices. They're waiting for their friends to support their ambitious goals. They're waiting for their colleagues to encourage their innovative ideas. They're waiting for society to validate their unconventional dreams. They're waiting for authorities to endorse their revolutionary concepts. They'll be waiting forever because that permission doesn't exist. But you don't have to wait. You don't need anyone's approval to start pursuing what matters to you. You don't need external validation to begin developing your potential. You don't need other people's permission to create the life you want to live. The only permission you need is the permission you give yourself. And that permission is available to you right now, in this moment, for any dream you're ready to pursue. Stop asking the world for permission to live your life. Stop seeking approval from people who aren't qualified to give it. Stop waiting for validation from individuals who don't understand your vision. Start giving yourself permission to want what you want, to pursue what calls to you, to become who you're meant to be. Because the only permission that matters is the one you give yourself, and you've been qualified to give that permission all along. Chapter 15. Start today, or spend forever explaining why you didn't. Start today, or spend forever explaining why you didn't. Those are your two options. There is no third choice. There is no middle ground. There is no way to avoid this decision indefinitely. You will either take action today, or you will spend the rest of your life creating increasingly elaborate explanations for why you never got started. You will either begin the journey toward your dreams now, or you will become an expert at justifying why the journey was impossible. Every day you delay starting is another day you have to explain. Every week you postpone beginning is another week added to your story of why it couldn't happen. Every month you avoid taking the first step is another month of excuses you'll have to manufacture. Every year you spend not pursuing what you really want is another year of your life that you'll have to account for with reasons, justifications, and explanations for your inaction. The excuses you're creating now will become the regrets you carry later. The reasons you're giving yourself for not starting will transform into the disappointments you live with permanently. The justifications you're building for why now isn't the right time will eventually become the explanations you give to yourself about why your life didn't turn out the way you hoped it would. You know what's interesting about people who never start? They become incredibly creative at explaining why they couldn't. They develop sophisticated theories about timing, circumstances, resources, and conditions. They build complex narratives about why their situation was uniquely difficult. They construct elaborate justifications for why their dreams weren't realistic. They become master storytellers when it comes to explaining their inaction, but they never become anything else because they never start. The people who start, on the other hand, don't need to explain anything. Their results speak for themselves. Their achievements tell their story. Their progress provides their justification. They don't need elaborate excuses because they have simple evidence. They began, they worked, they persisted, they achieved. Their explanations are straightforward because their actions were consistent. Starting today doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean you have to have everything figured out. It doesn't mean you have to feel completely ready or totally confident. Starting today just means you stop explaining why you can't and begin demonstrating that you can. It means you stop talking about obstacles and start navigating around them. It means you stop focusing on what's missing and start working with what you have. The longer you wait to start, the more reasons you'll find not to start. The more you delay, the more obstacles you'll discover. The more you postpone, the more problems you'll identify. It's not that these reasons, obstacles, and problems don't exist. They do, but they exist, whether you start today or start next year. The difference is that if you start today, you begin solving them. If you start next year, you spend another year accumulating more of them. Time is not going to solve your problems for you. Waiting is not going to make your dreams easier to achieve. Delay is not going to improve your circumstances. If anything, time makes things more difficult. Markets change. Opportunities disappear. Competition increases. Your energy decreases. Your willingness to take risks diminishes. Your window of possibility narrows. What seems achievable today becomes increasingly difficult tomorrow. You've been treating starting like it's an event that requires perfect conditions. But starting is not an event. It's a decision. It's a choice you make to begin moving in the direction of what you want, regardless of conditions. It's a commitment to stop explaining why you can't and start proving that you can. It's a declaration that your dreams matter more than your excuses. The most successful people in history didn't start when conditions were perfect. They started when conditions were imperfect and worked to improve them. They didn't wait for all their questions to be answered. They started with partial information and gathered more as they went. They didn't postpone until fear disappeared. They started while afraid and developed courage through action. Every moment you spend crafting reasons why you can't start is a moment you could spend taking actions that move you forward. Every hour you invest in building justifications for delay is an hour you could invest in building progress toward your goals. Every day you dedicate to explaining why now isn't the right time is a day you could dedicate to making now the right time. Your future self is watching the choices you make today. That future version of you will either thank you for starting or resent you for waiting. They'll either be grateful that you found the courage to begin despite your fears, or they'll be disappointed that you let those fears stop you from pursuing what mattered most. They'll either respect you for taking action despite uncertainty, or they'll question why you needed perfect certainty before you were willing to try. The explanations you give for not starting today will sound different in 10 years. The reasons that seem so compelling now will appear trivial later. The obstacles that seem insurmountable today will look manageable with the wisdom of hindsight. The fears that feel so real now will seem irrational when viewed from the perspective of time. But by then, it will be too late to go back and make a different choice. You don't get credit for good intentions. You don't earn rewards for elaborate plans. You don't receive recognition for detailed explanations of why you couldn't start. The world doesn't care about your reasons. The market doesn't compensate you for your excuses. Life doesn't give you points for having valid justifications for inaction. Results are the only currency that matters, and results only come from starting. Starting today means accepting that you'll make mistakes. It means acknowledging that you'll face challenges you don't expect. It means recognizing that the path will be different from what you imagine. But it also means giving yourself the opportunity to learn, grow, adapt, and overcome. It means positioning yourself to benefit from unexpected opportunities, discover hidden strengths, and develop capabilities you didn't know you had. The people who spend forever explaining why they didn't start become experts at one thing: justification. They can tell you exactly why their dreams weren't realistic, why their timing was wrong, why their resources were insufficient, why their circumstances were impossible. They become authorities on all the reasons why success wasn't possible for them. But they never become authorities on anything else, because they never start developing expertise in anything that matters. You have a choice to make right now. You can start today, take the first step, begin the journey, initiate the process. Or you can add today to the list of days you'll eventually have to explain. You can make today the day your story of achievement begins, or you can make it another day in your story of delay. You can use today to start building something meaningful, or you can use it to build another excuse. The world doesn't need more people who are excellent at explaining why they never tried. The world needs more people who are willing to try, to start, to begin, to take action despite uncertainty. It needs people who value progress over perfection, who choose action over analysis, who select courage over comfort. Start today. Not because conditions are perfect, but because they never will be. Not because you feel ready, but because readiness comes from starting. Not because success is guaranteed, but because failure to start guarantees nothing but regret. Not because it will be easy, but because explaining why you didn't will be harder. Start today, or spend forever explaining why you didn't. The choice is yours, but you have to choose now.